It's part of the fabric of what's the royal family and any future.
Prince William has quietly taken control of the Duchy of Cornwall, a huge private estate once linked to the Queen. With this power, he's making big changes behind the scenes, and some of Queen Camilla's family may not be happy. How will this shift affect royal relationships? And what does it mean for the monarchy's future? Stay with us as we reveal the full story. The moment power shifted to Prince William. Everything changed in a quiet but powerful way after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022. While the world was focused on mourning and royal ceremonies, something very important was already happening behind the scenes. As soon as her son became King Charles III, a new door opened for Prince William, and with it came real control. It was not loud, it was not dramatic, but it was serious. The system of the royal family follows a strict path, and the moment Charles became king, William automatically stepped into a new position. He became the Duke of Cornwall, and that title came with something very powerful: the Duchy of Cornwall. This is not just land or property. It is a massive private estate filled with farms, houses, businesses, and investments that generate huge income every year. William didn't just get a new title. He stepped into a role that gave him financial strength, independence, and decision-making power. Many people did not notice how big this moment was. There were no breaking news headlines shouting about it. But inside royal circles, this was seen as a major shift. Control had quietly moved from father to son in a way that changed the balance within the family. It was explained that this estate is not owned by the government. It belongs to the royal structure itself, meaning William now manages it directly. He decides how it runs, how money is used, and what changes should be made. This kind of control is very important for someone who will one day become king. At that point, it became clear that William was no longer just preparing for the future. He had already stepped into it. What made things even more interesting was how this shift affected everyday royal life. Places that seemed fixed and untouchable were now part of William's responsibility. Even Highgrove House, closely linked to his father, falls under the duchy. This means that while King Charles lives there, the estate itself is now under William's authority. It may sound small, but it shows how deep this change really goes. As days passed, people started paying closer attention, not just to what William had received, but to what he would do with it. At first, everything seemed calm. There were no sudden announcements or bold moves in public, but slowly signs began to appear that William was not planning to simply follow old traditions without question. He appeared focused on doing things in a cleaner, more modern way. It was noticed that some long-standing arrangements within the estate began to shift. Certain roles that had existed for many years were quietly reviewed. Some connections that were once part of the system were no longer kept in the same way. These were not noisy changes, but they carried weight. They showed that William was thinking differently. Instead of keeping everything exactly as it was, he seemed ready to reshape parts of the system to fit a new generation. His approach looked more direct, more careful, and more focused on structure rather than tradition alone. Naturally, when changes like this happen, not everyone feels comfortable. Even without open conflict, it is easy to understand how people connected to the old system might feel unsettled. When a new leader steps in and begins to adjust long-standing patterns, it can create quiet tension, not the kind that explodes in public, but the kind that sits beneath the surface. It was believed that William's actions were not personal. They were part of a bigger vision. He appeared to be preparing not just for his current role, but for the day he becomes king. His focus seemed to be on building something stable, something that could last in a modern world where expectations are constantly changing. Still, these changes had an effect. Influence within the royal space is not always about titles. Sometimes it is about closeness, access, and long-standing relationships. When control shifts, those invisible connections can also shift. People who once had a certain level of involvement may begin to feel that things are no longer the same. From the outside, everything looked peaceful. The royal family continued their duties, appearances, and events. But behind that calm image, a quiet transformation was taking place. Decisions were being made, directions were changing, and a new style of leadership was slowly coming to life. Because as William settled into this powerful position and began shaping things his own way, attention started to turn toward others connected to the royal circle. People began to wonder how these changes were being received, especially by those who had been close to the inner workings of royal life for many years. If power had clearly moved into William's hands, then what did that mean for those who once held influence around these estates? Because sometimes, the real story is not just about who gains control, but about who feels that control slipping away. Inside the Duchy of Cornwall, as people began to understand how much control had quietly moved into the hands of Prince William, there was also growing confusion about what he actually owned and what he did not. Many stories started spreading, and some of them made it sound like he had taken over everything that once belonged to Queen Elizabeth II. But the truth is more simple and much more structured than that. It was explained that not all royal properties are the same. Some belong to the crown, some are private, and some are tied to special estates like the Duchy of Cornwall. This is where many people get it mixed up. When the Queen passed away, her personal properties did not go to William. They were inherited by King Charles III as the new monarch. Places like Balmoral Castle and Sandringham are private homes that belong to the reigning king or queen. So, naturally, they passed directly to Charles, not William. This means that despite what some headlines may suggest, William did not take control of the Queen's personal estate. So, where does his power really come from? It all goes back to the Duchy of Cornwall. This estate is different from the Queen's private properties. It exists mainly to support the heir to the throne. The moment William became the heir, the duchy became his responsibility. That is where his authority comes from, not from taking over his grandmother's personal homes, but from stepping into a role that already carries its own powerful system. This distinction is very important. Without it, the story can easily sound more dramatic than it really is. William did not step in and claim everything. Instead, he received control over something designed specifically for him as the future king. Even so, the level of influence he now holds is very real. The duchy is worth a huge amount of money, and includes land and properties across different parts of the country. It generates income that supports William and his family, and it also gives him the ability to make key decisions about how everything is managed. This includes who is involved, how resources are used, and what direction the estate takes in the future. It was observed that with this level of control, William is not just following tradition, he is shaping it. And that is where things begin to shift emotionally. Because once someone starts making decisions, especially in a system that has been the same for many years, it can affect more than just business. It can affect people, relationships, and long-standing connections. The duchy may look like land and money on the surface, but behind it are real individuals who have been part of its operations for a long time. As William began settling into this role, there were signs that he was looking closely at how everything worked. Instead of simply keeping every arrangement as it was, he appeared to be reviewing things carefully. This kind of approach can bring improvement, but it can also bring discomfort to those who were used to the old way of doing things. It became clear that this was not just about ownership. It was about control, direction, and change. At the same time, the difference between William and his father's positions also became more visible. While Charles now holds the Queen's private properties, William controls the duchy. Both hold power, but in different ways. This creates a unique balance within the royal family, one where influence is shared, but not in the same form. From the outside, it may seem simple, but inside, it adds layers to how decisions are made and how people interact with each other. As all of this continued to unfold, attention slowly started shifting toward how these changes were affecting those connected to the royal circle, especially those who may have had roles, relationships, or influence linked to the duchy in the past. Because when a system begins to change, it is not just about what is gained, it is also about what might be lost. And this is where things start to feel more personal. Because while William was stepping confidently into his new role, not everyone around the royal space may have felt the same sense of ease. Some may have started to notice that their place within that system was no longer as secure as it once felt. And quietly, without any public announcement, small decisions were already being made. Decisions that would soon draw attention and raise even more questions about what was really going on behind the scenes. What Queen Elizabeth II actually left behind. As time moved on, the quiet changes around the duchy began to take clearer shape, and people started to notice that Prince William was not just holding power, he was using it. What once looked like a smooth and simple transition slowly began to feel like something deeper, something more intentional. It was observed that William started reviewing how the estate was being run, looking closely at roles, payments, and long-standing arrangements that had existed for years. These were not random decisions. They appeared careful, almost like he was cleaning up the system and making sure everything had a clear purpose. One of the most talked about moments came when a long-time connection linked to Queen Camilla's families was quietly removed from the duchy's paid roles. This was not loud news at first, but once it surfaced, it caught attention. The individual had been part of the system for many years, and the change signaled something important. William was not afraid to break from old patterns. It was not presented as personal. From the outside, it looked more like a decision based on structure and direction. Still, decisions like this can carry emotional weight, especially when family connections are involved. In a space where W and roles often mix, even small changes can feel big. For many watching closely, this moment stood out. It showed that William was serious about doing things differently. He was not simply stepping into a role and keeping everything the same. He was shaping it in his own way, even if that meant letting go of long-standing ties. This is where the atmosphere began to shift. Because while some may have seen these moves as modern and necessary, others may have viewed them differently. When a system changes, especially one tied to family and tradition, it can create quiet discomfort. People who once felt secure in their positions might begin to feel uncertain. It was easy to imagine how this could affect those connected to Camilla's side of the family. While nothing was openly confirmed as conflict, the situation naturally raised questions. If roles linked to her circle were being reduced or removed, what did that mean for their place within the royal structure? Even without direct statements, the feeling of distance can grow. At the same time, William's actions seemed focused on building something more controlled and transparent. He appeared to be moving away from informal arrangements and toward a system that runs on clear rules. This kind of shift can strengthen an institution, but it can also change how people experience it from the inside. What made everything more intense was how quietly it all happened. There were no public arguments, no direct confrontations, and no clear signs of anger. Yet the changes spoke loudly on their own. A role removed here, a structure adjusted there. It all added up to a new way of doing things. And in a family where history runs deep, even quiet changes can echo strongly. It was also important to remember that King Charles III and Queen Camilla still hold their own positions and influence. But the Duchy of Cornwall now sits firmly under William's control, and that gives him a space where his decisions carry full weight. Within that space, he does not need to follow every past tradition if he believes a different path is better. This balance of power creates a unique situation. On one side, there is experience and long-standing relationships. On the other, there is fresh leadership and a new vision. When these two sides meet, even quietly, tension can naturally grow. From the outside, everything still looked calm. Royal duties continued, public appearances remained steady, and the image of unity stayed strong. But behind that calm surface, a quiet reshaping was taking place, one decision at a time. And as these decisions continued, the story started to feel less about land and money and more about people. Because when influence begins to shift, feelings often follow. It left many wondering what was truly being felt behind closed doors. Were these changes simply part of progress, or were they creating unseen cracks within the family? And more importantly, how was Queen Camilla herself reacting to all of this? Because when the people closest to you begin to lose their place, even slightly, it can turn a quiet change into something much more personal, and that is where the story begins to take an even more emotional turn. The quiet decisions that raised eyebrows. As these quiet changes continued, attention slowly turned toward how Queen Camilla might be feeling about everything happening around her. Nothing had been said openly, and there were no public signs of disagreement. But the situation itself began to feel more personal than before. It was understood that Camilla has always had a close connection to her own family and inner circle. Over the years, some of those relationships naturally found a place within the wider royal environment, not in a loud or official way, but in a quiet, familiar way that had grown over time. So, when Prince William began making adjustments within the duchy, it did not just affect systems, it touched those long-standing connections too. Even small changes can feel big when they involve people you trust. From the outside, William's approach still appeared focused and professional. He seemed to be shaping the estate with a clear plan, making sure everything matched his vision for the future. But inside, where relationships mattered just as much as structure, things may not have felt so simple. It was easy to imagine how moments like these could create quiet discomfort, not anger that explodes into the open, but a softer kind of tension, the kind that builds slowly when things no longer feel the same. When familiar roles disappear or change, it can leave people wondering where they now stand. For Camilla, this situation may have carried an extra layer of emotion. She had stepped into her role over many years, building trust, finding her place, and balancing her personal life with royal duty. Her journey had not been simple, and the people around her had likely been part of that support system. So, when that circle begins to shift, even slightly, it can feel like the ground is moving beneath your feet. At the same time, King Charles III remained by her side, holding his own position as monarch. Together, they continued their duties, presenting a united and steady image to the public. Nothing on the surface suggested any problem. Everything looked calm, controlled, and respectful. But behind that calm image, the reality may have been more complex. Because while Charles holds the crown, William now controls a major part of the royal financial structure through the duchy. That means there are spaces where William's decisions stand on their own, without needing to follow past patterns or personal ties. In those spaces, change can happen quietly but firmly. This creates a delicate balance. On one side, there is tradition, history, and long-standing relationships. On the other side, there is a new generation stepping forward, ready to adjust things for the future. Neither side is wrong, but when they meet, it can create moments of tension that are not always visible. It was not about open conflict. It was about feeling, the feeling of things changing, the feeling of roles shifting, the feeling of influence becoming smaller or different. And sometimes, those feelings speak louder than words. As people watched from the outside, the story began to grow more emotional. It was no longer just about estates or decisions. It became about how those decisions affect real people inside a very close and very complex family. Questions started forming quietly. Was this simply a necessary step toward a modern monarchy? Or was it slowly creating distance between people who once moved closely together? And where exactly does that leave Camilla's place within all of this, especially when the people closest to her may no longer hold the same position as before? Because when change touches both power and relationships at the same time, it rarely stays simple. And as William continues to shape his path and define his leadership, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. This is not just a transition of roles anymore. It is the beginning of a deeper shift within the royal family itself. And what comes next may reveal even more than what has already quietly unfolded. Where Queen Camilla's inner circle fits. As everything continued to unfold quietly, the focus began to shift from individual decisions to something much bigger, the future direction of the royal family itself. What Prince William was doing no longer looked like small adjustments. It started to feel like the early steps of a completely new style of leadership. It was becoming clearer that William was thinking ahead, not just reacting to the moment. His actions around the duchy showed a pattern, one that pointed toward structure, order, and careful control. He appeared less interested in keeping traditions just for the sake of history, and more focused on making sure everything had a clear purpose in today's world. This is where the idea of a generational shift truly comes alive. For many years, the royal family has followed systems built on tradition, relationships, and long-standing habits. These systems worked in their time, but the world around them has changed. Expectations are different now. People look more closely at how power is used, how money is managed, and how decisions are made. William seems to understand this. Instead of waiting until he becomes king, he appears to be preparing early. By shaping the duchy now, he is quietly building the kind of system he may one day lead on a much larger scale. Every small change begins to look like part of a bigger picture, and that picture feels modern, more organized, more direct, less dependent on informal connections. But change like this does not happen without pressure. Because while a new approach can bring strength and clarity, it can also move away from the comfort of old traditions. For those who have been part of the royal system for many years, this shift may feel unfamiliar. What once felt natural may now feel uncertain. It is not about right or wrong, it is about difference. At the same time, King Charles III represents a bridge between the old and the new. His leadership carries both tradition and adaptation, but William's style feels more like a clear step forward into a different era. This contrast is subtle, but it is there, and people are starting to notice. The royal family has always been known for its ability to adjust over time, but these adjustments are usually slow and careful. What makes this moment interesting is how early William has begun shaping his path. He is not waiting quietly in the background. He is already making decisions that reflect how he sees the future. From the outside, everything still looks steady. Public appearances continue. Duties are carried out. The image remains strong. But underneath that image, something deeper is forming. A shift in mindset. A shift in control. A shift in how things are done. And when shifts like this begin, they rarely stay hidden forever. Because the more William continues to lead in his own way, the more noticeable the difference becomes. People begin to compare, to question, and to watch more closely. Every decision starts to carry more meaning, especially when it touches both power and personal connections. This is no longer just about one estate or one role. It is about the direction of the monarchy itself. Will it stay closely tied to its past, holding on to every tradition and connection? Or will it move toward a cleaner, more modern structure where everything is clearly defined? That question is slowly taking shape, even if no one is saying it out loud. And as this new direction becomes stronger, it brings the story to a powerful point. Because while William is building something that looks stable and future-ready, the quiet tension created along the way has not fully disappeared. It is still there, beneath the surface, waiting to be understood. So now the focus turns to one final thought. If this is only the beginning of William's leadership style, then what will happen when his influence grows even bigger? Because the changes we are seeing now may just be the first step, and what comes next could reshape everything people thought they knew about how the royal family truly works behind closed doors. Tradition versus modern leadership. As everything slowly settles into place, the full picture begins to feel clearer, and at the same time, even more emotional. What started as a quiet shift after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II has now grown into something much deeper, something that is shaping the future of the royal family in real time. Prince William is no longer standing in the background, waiting for his moment. That moment has already begun. Through his control of the duchy, his careful decisions, and his steady approach, he is already showing the kind of leader he may become one day. And what makes this so powerful is how calm and controlled everything looks from the outside, even while big changes are happening underneath. It feels less like a sudden takeover and more like a quiet rebuild. Step by step, William appears to be creating a system that matches the world as it is today, not as it used to be. His actions suggest that he values clarity, order, and fairness over tradition that no longer fits. This does not mean he is rejecting the past, but it shows that he is not afraid to adjust it. At the same time, King Charles III continues to carry the weight of the crown, holding together both history and responsibility. His role remains central, and his presence brings stability. But alongside him, William's influence is growing in a different way, less visible, yet deeply effective. And then there is Queen Camilla. Her position within this story feels quiet but meaningful. She continues to stand beside the king, fulfilling her duties, maintaining her role, and presenting a calm and steady image to the world. Nothing openly suggests conflict. Nothing clearly shows discomfort. Yet when the people connected to her circle begin to fade from certain roles, it naturally adds an emotional layer to everything happening. Because beyond titles and estates, this is still a family. And in any family, when things begin to change, feelings follow. It is easy to imagine how moments like these might feel from the inside. Not dramatic or explosive, but soft and personal. A quiet awareness that things are not exactly the same as before. A slow realization that roles, influence, and connections are shifting in ways that cannot always be controlled. For William, this path may feel necessary. He seems focused on building something strong and lasting, something that can stand firm in a modern world where people expect openness and accountability. His choices suggest long-term thinking, even if those choices create short-term discomfort. For others around him, especially those who were once closely linked to how things worked, this shift may feel different. Not wrong, but unfamiliar. And sometimes unfamiliar changes can feel unsettling, even when they are meant for growth. This is what makes the situation so powerful. It is not a loud conflict, it is not a clear disagreement. It is a quiet transformation, one that touches both power and emotion at the same time. From the outside, the royal family continues to move as one. Events are attended, Duties are fulfilled, and the image remains strong. But behind that image, the story is still unfolding. Decisions are still being made. Adjustments are still happening. And with each step, the future becomes a little more defined. What stands out the most is how early this transformation has begun. William is not waiting for the crown to begin shaping his vision. He is already doing it now, in the spaces where he has control. This shows a level of readiness that many did not expect to see so soon. It also suggests that when his time fully comes, the changes may feel less sudden, because they have already been quietly introduced over time. And that leads to an even bigger thought. If this is how William leads before becoming king, what will his leadership look like when he holds the highest position? Will the monarchy become more structured, more transparent, and more modern than ever before? Or will these quiet changes continue to create distance within the family, especially among those who feel left behind by the shift? There is no clear answer yet, but one thing is certain. The story is no longer just about inheritance or titles. It is about direction. It is about identity. It is about how a centuries-old institution finds its place in a fast-changing world. And right at the center of it all stands William, calm, focused, and already shaping what comes next. So, as everything continues to unfold quietly behind palace walls, one question lingers in the air. Are we watching the careful rise of a modern king, or the beginning of deeper changes that could reshape the royal family in ways no one fully expects yet? So, what does this moment really show about power, change, and the quiet pressure inside the royal family? As Prince William steps forward, can tradition and a modern vision truly live side by side? If this gave you a deeper look inside royal life, like this and subscribe for more.